We are monitoring Sean Spicer and his hearing that's kicking off right now. The Dow is now negative after being positive much of the morning throughout all these developments. We've got former CIA officer Bryan Wright with us, the Hill's Jesse Byrnes, Charlie Gasparino. Charlie, end with you, and I'll begin with you on these markets. What do you make of? I always hate to peg them to one event, but they had been up.
They have been up, and by the way, stuck at around 20. The Dow was stuck at around 24, not moving much. It moved a little bit when Comey said something that, when he said that, I think when he mentioned the investigation into the Russian meddling in the U.S. investigation, but in the U.S. election. But it's kind of stayed there and went down now. I mean, listen, net. I think Mike Lee, that was a revealing interview when you asked him point blank, is all this stuff that Trump's saying about Obama wiretapping him, which seems to be absurd, is that helping? And he says, no, it doesn't help his tax-cutting agenda.
Things, yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of interesting. After you said that, the market started going down. And
right.
I'm not saying that they're directly related, but that sentiment is in the reason why the market's down.
Jesse Byrnes, what do you make of this? I don't want not so much the market stuff, but whether, you know, Donald Trump is going to have a tough time when so many Republicans are now saying, again today, as they said late last week, look, there's no there. We can't find this tapping charge that you have against the former president. Plenty of other things we're finding out, but that one we just can't nail down. How bad is that?
Well, it's at the point where it's no longer a sideshow, if it ever was. Now, for weeks, it's been at the focal point of, you know, congressional inquiries now. They're looking into this. No one can find evidence, so members of both parties now having to go on the record, the FBI director. So, yeah, it's definitely distracts from a lot of what they're trying to pursue, and it's putting resources in a direction that it seems like no one feels like they're being justified.
Bryan, right now, you're a former CIA operations officer, so work through my ignorance on this. How can we be so sure and unequivocal that those comments from the president about being tapped by the former president are wrong? Nothing to support it. But very much convinced that the Russians were, in fact, manipulating or trying to our elections as well. I mean, how can we have it both ways?
Well, I think if in fact there were these FISA court authorizations of you know, allowing the surveillance to happen, that may be what he's tripping up over, because the wiretapping claim just is flat out wrong. But if in fact the FISA courts authorized that surveillance, then he or his associates certainly could have been caught up in that in the weeks and months leading up to his eventual election and indeed his presidency.
I mean, would it surprise anybody that Paul Manafort, there was a Title III or FISA warrant to tap his phone? It wouldn't surprise. I mean, I'm not saying it happened.
People, in other words.
Yeah, I mean,
but not the
Paul
president.
Manafort had direct ties with the Russians or doing business there or whatever. Or if Roger Stone, my full disclosure guy I know, guy I liked, another associate of Donald Trump, who's been out there and talking about his connections with WikiLeaks and Guccifer, or any number of, or Flynn himself, any number of former or people in the Trump orbit that had connections with Russians or with Russia.
So do you find it odd that they're all jumping out of that? No evidence at all.
But it's possible that
they're just saying about the president.
By the way, it's possible that happened without a Title III, that those were picked up just on intercepts that you don't need Title III on. Because
what if all the Republicans saying there's no there?
You're probably, well, even that's the case, which I just wonder. Listen, it just wouldn't. It seems to me that if there's any truth to this, and you can ask the CIA gentlemen, it's Russians that are being spied on by us, which we're supposed to do, having some connections with Trump people and getting picked up that way.
You know, Jesse, one thing that came up, a lot of people probably ignored it. I thought it was revealing that, I forget the congressman who asked, I believe Congressman Turner, what is the difference between a General Michael Flynn getting paid by the Russians, presumably for a speech or a seminar, whatever the event was, we don't even know when it was, and a Bill Clinton, or for that matter, Hillary Clinton, getting paid by authorities? Why is it given disproportionate amount of attention now?
Well, I think it was revealing the fact that, you know, Democrats have been pushing for months for Comey to even confirm that there was an investigation, and he said that they've been looking into this since July, and so apparently, you know, anything since July onward, of course, would be involved in that, but we don't know the scope of.
But we don't know when it was they were talking about, right?
Yeah, we don't know the exact extent of this, but yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of scrutiny of what they can actually confirm.